words came out of her mouth like acid, each syllable designed to burn. My wife Samantha stood in our living room, perfectly manicured hands on her hips, designer dress hugging curves she maintained with yoga classes I funded. Her eyes held that particular gleam I'd come to recognize over the past months, contempt mixed with sadistic pleasure. "I'm sleeping with your boss and your friends, Ethan. Victor, Ryan, Kyle, Marcus, all of them. If you can't handle it, then leave. They're real men." The silence that followed felt infinite. 6 years of marriage, thousands of moments, all culminating in this single point. She expected tears or rage, expected me to crumble or explode, to give her the dramatic scene she clearly wanted for whatever victim narrative she'd spin on Instagram later. Instead, I felt something inside me go cold and still. It was a feeling I recognized from my military days, from moments when survival depended on locking emotions down tight. The medics called it tactical dissociation. Your mind separates from immediate impact and starts calculating, planning, surviving. I picked up my keys from the coffee table, metal cold against my palm. Keys to my beat-up Honda Civic that I'd driven for 8 years while she leased new Mercedes every 2 years, because appearances mattered to her follower count. I looked at her one final time. The woman who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, for richer or poorer. The woman I'd supported through every failed venture, every social media pivot, every reinvention of her brand. The woman now telling me she'd been sleeping with 4 different men, including my boss, framing it as my inadequacy rather than her betrayal. "You made your choice," I told her. The door closed with a soft click that felt more final than any slam. I walked to my car, each step measured. Only inside with doors locked did I allow myself to sit there, hands on the steering wheel, breathing in controlled patterns. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. The breathing exercise for staying calm under fire. My name is Ethan Walker, 34 years old. To everyone in New York City, I'm just another working guy doing tech installations, driving an old car, wearing jeans and boots, keeping my head down. The kind of person you'd pass without a second glance, which is exactly how I prefer it. But that's not the whole story. I spent 8 years in the Army, 4 in special operations. I can't discuss most of what I did, and most civilians wouldn't believe it anyway. What matters is I learned things most people never learn. How to observe without being noticed. How to plan with surgical precision. How to wait for exactly the right moment to strike. How to become invisible when needed and devastatingly visible when required. Most importantly, I learned emotion is the enemy of effective action. You don't decide based on feelings. You decide based on cold assessment of situation and desired outcome. Feelings come later, after the mission completes. When I left the military 7 years ago, I had $40,000 in savings. Most guys blew through their money on trucks and partying. I did something different. I'd been paying attention to something most people mocked: cryptocurrency. This was when Bitcoin traded at $800 and financial experts called it a scam. Ethereum was barely $20. I researched for weeks, understanding the technology and potential. Then I took my entire savings and bought in. People thought I was insane. Service buddies said I was throwing money away. Financial advisors looked at me like I'd lost my mind. But I'd learned in special ops that sometimes the biggest risks yield the biggest rewards, and most people are too afraid to take them. I held those investments as they climbed and crashed and climbed again. Resisted every urge to sell during spikes. Rode out crashes when people panicked. Watched my initial $40,000 turn into $200,000, then $500,000, then $1 million, then $2 million. By the time I met Samantha 5 years ago, I was sitting on close to $3 million in cryptocurrency assets. Today, with market movements, that number approached $8 million. But I never told her, never told anyone. Why? Because I'd seen what money does to people. Watched it destroy relationships and corrupt values. Money reveals who people really are, and usually that revelation is devastating. I wanted to know that whoever I married wanted me for me, not my bank account or what I could provide, just for who I was as a person. When I met Samantha at a Brooklyn coffee shop, she seemed perfect. Beautiful, obviously, with effortless charm that drew people. But more than that, she seemed ambitious in ways I respected. She was building something with social media, creating lifestyle content. She worked long hours on posts and engagement, and I admired that work ethic. She told me on our 3rd date she wasn't interested in rich guys or corporate climbers. She'd dated a Wall Street banker once and found him soulless. She wanted someone real, someone grounded, someone who understood building from nothing. I believed her. We dated a year before I proposed. During that time, I supported her dreams. When she needed equipment for content creation, I bought it. When she wanted to attend influencer conferences, I paid for tickets and travel. When she needed professional photos, I hired photographers. I did it all while maintaining my cover as just a regular working guy stretching his budget to support his girlfriend's dreams. She seemed grateful and appreciative, told me constantly I was different from other guys, that I was special, that she loved how supportive and understanding I was. We got married in a small ceremony. Her choice, she said, because she wanted it intimate and meaningful rather than some big production for social media. I was touched. I thought it meant she valued substance over appearance. I was wrong. The first year seemed good. She built her following steadily, getting small sponsorships, creating content regularly. I continued working, paying all bills, giving her freedom to focus entirely on her career. She promised that once she made it big, once brand deals really paid off, she'd contribute equally to our finances. I didn't care about money. I had plenty. What I cared about was building partnership, real marriage based on mutual support and respect. By the second year, things shifted. She was out more often, networking events running later into evenings. She started dressing differently, more provocatively, more expensively. She began dropping names of people she was meeting, important people, influential people, people with real money and power. I noticed but said nothing. Old intelligence work habits. Observe, document, wait for the full picture. By year 3, she'd grown her following to about 200,000. Respectable numbers for decent sponsorships. But she was spending more than making. Designer clothes kept appearing. She was getting cosmetic procedures, Botox and fillers that cost money. She ate at expensive restaurants and posted about them, stayed at luxury hotels for weekend getaways I wasn't invited to because they were for work. I started checking credit card statements more carefully. She had cards I didn't know about. She was racking up debt. Still, I said nothing, just watched and waited. Year 4 was when I noticed real signs. She began mentioning my friends differently. Ryan, my buddy from high school who I'd helped through his divorce and lent $5,000 to when his gym struggled. She suddenly found him hilarious, laughed at all his jokes, always wanted to know when we were hanging out so she could join. Kyle, the insurance broker I'd known since college, who I'd introduced to clients who became his business foundation. She started asking him for advice, texting him directly instead of through me, finding excuses to meet for coffee to discuss financial planning. Marcus, the real estate agent I'd mentored when he was getting his license, who owed his career to connections I'd made. She suddenly needed his expertise on property values, meeting him for lunch to discuss our financial future. And then there was Victor Stone. Victor owns Stone Enterprises, a major corporation managing commercial properties across the tri-state area. The company I worked for did installations in his buildings, technically making him my boss, though I rarely dealt with him directly. He was 52, divorced twice, known for aggressive negotiation tactics and equally aggressive pursuit of women. I saw how Samantha looked at him at the company Christmas party in year 4. When he met her, something shifted in the air. He turned on charm, complimenting her social media, which he claimed to follow, offering to introduce her to marketing executives who might work with influencers. She practically glowed under his attention. He knew it. I watched them disappear to a balcony for 20 minutes. When they returned, her lipstick was smudged and his collar askew. They thought they were being subtle. They weren't. That's when I started serious surveillance. I installed tracking software on her phone. Not difficult. I had physical access, knew her passwords, and had skills from military intelligence work. The software was undetectable, giving me real-time location data, call logs, and text message backups. I set up small cameras in our apartment. Nothing intrusive in bathrooms, but in living room and bedroom, disguised as phone chargers and alarm clocks. High definition, motion activated, cloud uploading. If someone was in our home, I'd know and have video proof. I put GPS tracker on her car. The car was in my name. I paid for it. So legally I was solid. I could see everywhere she went, how long she stayed, patterns and movements. What I discovered over 6 months was worse than imagined. The GPS showed her car at Ryan's gym on Tuesday afternoons when the gym was closed for maintenance. She'd stay exactly 2 hours, then leave. The pattern repeated weekly. Different Tuesdays, her car would be at Kyle's office building garage for 2 hours midday. Thursdays, she'd drive to Marcus's apartment building and stay 2 hours. Weekend evenings, her location showed various Manhattan hotels, cross-referencing with Victor's known patterns, obtained by accessing his corporate calendar. She was meeting him, but GPS alone wasn't proof of infidelity. Suspicious as hell, but not definitive. I needed more. That's when apartment cameras paid off. Motion alerts notified me when I wasn't home. One Tuesday afternoon in month 5, I got an alert. I was supposedly at work, but actually at a coffee shop with my laptop. I pulled up the camera feed. Ryan was in my apartment, in my home. He let himself in with a key Samantha had obviously given him. 5 minutes later, Samantha arrived. They didn't waste time. They went straight to the bedroom. I watched for 30 seconds, just long enough to confirm what was happening, then closed the laptop. I sat in that coffee shop, drinking coffee and breathing slowly, reminding myself emotion was the enemy. This was just information, data to process and file away. Over the next 2 months, I collected similar footage of Kyle on his Tuesdays, Marcus on his Thursdays. I watched my wife betray me with 3 of my closest friends in our own bed. I documented everything, timestamps, dates, duration of visits, saved every piece of video evidence to multiple encrypted drives, backed up to secure cloud storage Samantha couldn't access or even know existed. But I still didn't confront her, not yet, because I knew something about betrayal most people don't understand. The confrontation, the dramatic reveal, the tearful accusations, that's just the beginning. What matters is what comes after, and I needed to be prepared for after. I started researching Victor Stone more deeply. His company looked solid externally, but I had access to databases most people don't. Stone Enterprises was heavily leveraged. Victor had taken massive loans to finance expansion, several coming due in 18 months. His personal finances were a mess. 2 ex-wives with expensive settlements, a gambling habit he thought secret, properties underwater. He projected wealth and power, but it was largely illusion. He was 1 or 2 bad quarters from serious financial trouble. Ryan's gym was barely surviving. I accessed his business bank accounts, not legally, but I wasn't particularly concerned about legality now. His membership numbers were inflated by free comps to friends and family. He was 3 months behind on gym space rent. His leased equipment had missing payments. The business was circling the drain. Kyle's insurance practice looked more successful than it was. I found complaints filed with the state board, angry clients who felt he'd misrepresented policies or failed to pay claims properly, evidence he was cutting corners on paperwork and compliance, one whistleblower away from losing his license. Marcus's real estate career was almost entirely fictional. I traced his supposed sales and found most were rentals he took credit for or deals other agents actually closed. He was living entirely on credit and commission advances against future sales that weren't materializing. His BMW was leased, his Rolex a good fake, his penthouse actually a rent-controlled studio he accessed through a client. Everything about his success was performance. And Samantha's influencer career? I finally took a hard look at her numbers. About a third of her 300,000 followers were bot accounts she'd purchased. Another third were inactive accounts that hadn't posted in months or years. Her actual engaged audience was maybe 100,000, and her engagement rate was below industry standards. The sponsorships she bragged about were mostly trade arrangements. Free products for posts, not paid sponsorships. The few real brand deals paid maybe $2,000 or $3,000 each, 1 per month. Meanwhile, she spent 10 times that maintaining the lifestyle image her content required. I found her hidden credit card statements. She was carrying $23,000 in high-interest debt across 4 different cards, making minimum payments and sinking deeper monthly. All 5 of them, Samantha and her 4 lovers, were frauds, living on borrowed money, borrowed time, borrowed credibility. All one push away from collapse, and I decided I was going to be that push. But I needed to be smart. Confronting Samantha wouldn't be enough. Exposing affairs wouldn't be enough. I needed something bringing down all of them simultaneously. Something making collapse look natural rather than orchestrated. Something that couldn't be traced to me. That's when I thought of Angela Moore. Angela was a nurse I'd met 2 years earlier at a veteran support group. Her Marine husband had come back from Afghanistan different, angry, violent, paranoid. The VA labeled it PTSD, but provided little real help. He started drinking, hitting her, controlling every aspect of her life. She'd finally left after he put her in the emergency room with a broken arm. But leaving was just the first step. He violated restraining orders, stalked her, threatened her family. The system moved slowly, and she was terrified. I'd helped her, used military contacts to ensure she had real security, testified at her restraining order hearing with details about military-related PTSD that helped the judge understand threat severity, connected her with resources and support, helped her relocate to a new apartment, and made sure her ex couldn't find her. I probably saved her life, though I'd never say it that way. She'd told me once, with tears, that if I ever needed anything, truly anything at all, I should call her. She owed me her life and would do whatever she could to repay that debt. I told her she owed me nothing, but now 2 years later, I was going to take her up on that offer. We met at a diner in Queens, far from anywhere either of us normally went. Angela looked healthier than I'd ever seen her. She'd put on weight in a good way, filled out and strong. Her hair was styled nicely. She wore scrubs with a hospital ID badge. She'd rebuilt her entire life. "Ethan," she said warmly when I sat down, "it's so good to see you. How have you been?" "I need your help," I said directly. Her expression shifted immediately to serious. "Tell me." I laid it all out. The affairs, the betrayal, the evidence I'd collected, the vulnerabilities I'd found. And then I told her what I needed. She listened without interrupting, her face growing harder as I explained details. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That's elaborate," she finally said, "and borderline illegal in some aspects." "I know. You're sure about this?" "Once we start, there's no undoing it. I'm absolutely sure." She studied my face, and I could see her making the calculation, weighing what I was asking against what I'd done for her, weighing ethics against justice, weighing risk against outcome. "Okay," she finally said, "you saved my life when I had nowhere to turn. I'll help you now." "When do we start?" The opportunity presented itself faster than expected. Victor Stone's company announced a major PR initiative, a free comprehensive health screening for all employees and families, called Men's Health Matters, positioned as corporate responsibility, showing Stone Enterprises cared about employee wellness. The event would include blood work, blood pressure checks, basic cardiac screening, prostate cancer markers for men over 40, everything. Promoted heavily internally and on social media as a way to catch health problems early. Samantha was all over it. Victor had personally asked her to help promote it, to use her influencer platform to encourage participation and share preventive health care. Importance. She posted about it multiple times daily. "Taking care of the men in our lives is so important," she wrote in one caption. "Looking concerned and caring." She encouraged all male followers to prioritize their health. She specifically pressured Ryan, Kyle, and Marcus to sign up, told them it was free, comprehensive, and Victor was doing such an amazing thing. Made it sound like not participating would insult Victor's generosity. All three signed up, and Victor himself was participating in his own company's event. The health screening was being run through Manhattan General Hospital, where Angela worked as a nurse in the lab processing unit. She wasn't working the event itself, but had access to the lab where blood work would be processed. Perfect. Over 3 weeks, I worked harder than on any military operation. I rented a small Brooklyn loft and turned it into an operations center. Computer setup with multiple monitors, encrypted connections, reference materials on medical terminology, and test results. Angela got me access to hospital lab computer systems. I'm not detailing how, because it was definitely illegal, but I've broken into significantly more secure systems. Hospital IT security is generally terrible. I studied every aspect of blood test results, normal ranges, abnormal indicators, what different markers meant, how they were reported, learned to read lab results like a medical professional. Angela and I practiced logistics over and over, timing, access, procedures, backup plans. Ran through it until we could execute in our sleep. The key was making changes concerning enough to trigger follow-up testing, but not so outlandish they'd be immediately flagged as fraudulent. We needed results causing panic and requiring additional comprehensive examinations, but wouldn't necessarily indicate anything definitively. The health screening was a Saturday in late June. Beautiful weather, huge turnout. Victor had gone all out. Medical tents in company parking lot, food trucks providing free meals, live music, face painting for kids. It looked like a community festival. I watched from a distance, sitting in my car at the lot edge with baseball cap low and sunglasses on. Saw Samantha arrive in her Mercedes, wearing a white designer sundress probably costing $800. She immediately went to Victor's side, playing the role of concerned partner in this health initiative. I watched Ryan show up in gym clothes, all muscles and swagger. Watched Kyle arrive in business casual, always professional. Watched Marcus roll up in his leased BMW, looking like success personified. They all went through health screening, blood drawn, blood pressure taken, quick physical exams. They were laughing and joking, not taking it seriously. Just another free thing, another photo opportunity for Samantha's social media. My wife posted constantly throughout the event. Photos of tents, videos of families participating, inspirational captions about men's health importance. She positioned herself next to Victor in most photos, playing up the narrative she was involved in organizing this important initiative. Blood samples were collected in labeled tubes, logged into a system, packed into coolers with ice, transported to Manhattan General for processing. Standard procedure. That evening, after samples arrived at the hospital, Angela went to work. She waited until her shift, until she was alone in the lab processing room with samples. She pulled the ones we'd identified: Victor Stone, Ryan Mitchell, Kyle Peterson, Marcus Thompson. She logged into the computer system using access credentials I'd obtained, and then we made our modifications. Victor Stone's results were adjusted to show elevated liver enzymes and positive markers for hepatitis antibodies. Not definitive diagnosis, but concerning enough to require immediate follow-up with a hepatologist. Ryan Mitchell's results were altered to show elevated PSA levels, the marker for potential prostate cancer. High enough to be very concerning, requiring urgent urologist referral. Kyle Peterson's test showed irregular blood cell counts and concerning markers indicating anything from anemia to blood disorders to something more serious. Definitely requiring comprehensive follow-up. Marcus Thompson's results indicated elevated cardiac markers and severely high blood pressure numbers. Red flags for potential heart disease or stroke risk. Emergency cardiology consultation required. We didn't fabricate diagnoses, just adjusted numbers to fall into concerning ranges, triggering follow-up protocols. The genius was that follow-up testing would be real, conducted by real doctors at real facilities. Whatever they found in comprehensive exams would be legitimate. Results were printed, sealed in envelopes, mailed to each participant 1 week later. We timed it so all 4 men would receive results on the same Wednesday afternoon. I was in my loft when my phone started buzzing. Samantha calling. I let it ring to voicemail. She called again, and again. 8 times that evening. I finally answered the next morning, keeping my voice calm and distracted. Ethan, where have you been? Why haven't you been answering? I've been working. Late shift last night. What's wrong? Her voice came in a panicked rush. It's Victor and Ryan and Kyle and Marcus. They all got their results from that screening and they're all terrible. Really terrible. Victor thinks he might have hepatitis. Ryan's worried about prostate cancer. Kyle's blood work was abnormal. Marcus might have heart problems. Everyone is completely freaking out. That sounds serious, I said, keeping my tone carefully neutral. Serious? Ethan, these are your friends, your boss. Don't you care? I let silence stretch before responding. My friends, I said slowly, letting the words hang. Right. The guys who've been so loyal to me. I could hear her breathing change. What do you mean by that? Nothing, Samantha. Nothing at all. I hope they get the medical care they need and everything works out okay. I hung up before she could respond. The chaos that followed exceeded expectations. Victor Stone, convinced he had hepatitis, immediately started trying to contact every woman he'd slept with in the past year to inform them they might have been exposed. From a public health standpoint, this was responsible. From a reputation standpoint, it was absolutely devastating. Word spread fast. One ex-girlfriend posted about it on social media. Someone contacted Page 6. Someone tipped off the New York Post. Within 3 days, articles ran about corporate executives' health scare exposes pattern of affairs, and Victor Stone's hepatitis diagnosis reveals multiple relationships. His current girlfriend, a 28-year-old marketing executive, left him immediately. She posted a long Instagram story about betrayal and dishonesty and how she'd been exposed to potential health risks without her knowledge. Victor's board started asking uncomfortable questions, not about his health. They couldn't legally discriminate based on that, but about his judgment, liability he posed to the company, whether someone with such personal chaos should represent the organization. The company's stock price dropped 3% in a week, small in absolute terms but significant in perception. Ryan's situation was different, but equally destructive. Word got out, possibly through Jim's staff who'd heard panicked phone calls, that he might have prostate cancer. Parents in his youth program started pulling kids out, not because cancer is contagious, but because people get weird about illness. They worry about capacity to perform duties, stability. His gym membership numbers, already artificially inflated, started dropping for real. People whose memberships were renewing decided not to. New signups slowed to a trickle. His business partner, sensing weakness and opportunity, approached him about a buyout. Ryan was in such panic about his health, he barely paid attention to numbers. He accepted an offer 30 cents on the dollar compared to what his share was worth. Kyle's insurance practice started hemorrhaging clients almost immediately. It started with one client on the fence about switching providers. They heard through the grapevine Kyle might have serious health issues. They decided they wanted an agent who would be around long term. They moved policies to a competitor. Then another client left. Then another. Insurance is built entirely on trust and long-term relationships. Any hint of instability, any suggestion your agent might not be available when needed, and clients start looking for alternatives. Kyle's income dropped 40% in 3 weeks. He started panicking, calling clients trying to reassure them, which only made him seem more desperate. Marcus's situation was perhaps most ironic. As a real estate agent, his entire business was built on projecting confidence and success. Clients don't want to work with agents who seem weak or struggling. They want winners. When word got out, and word always gets out, that Marcus had received concerning health results and was dealing with potential heart problems, his colleagues started circling like sharks. Real estate is cutthroat. Other agents started quietly reaching out to his clients, suggesting maybe they should work with someone who could give them undivided attention. Marcus's listings started getting pulled. Not all at once, but steadily. One client after another deciding they wanted to go in a different direction. His pipeline dried up completely. And through all this, Samantha was trying to be there for all of them. Rushing between Victor's penthouse and Ryan's gym, and Kyle's office and Marcus's home, trying to provide emotional support to 4 different men in 4 different crises. She was stretched impossibly thin, and it was starting to show. Her Instagram posts became less frequent and more scattered. When she did post, they were vague, inspirational quotes about supporting loved ones through difficult times. The comments section was increasingly skeptical. "Why are you so involved in all these guys' business?" one commenter asked. "Where's your husband in all this?" asked another. "Something's not right here," wrote a third. Her follower count started dropping. Slowly at first, just a few hundred daily, then faster. 1,000 a day. 2,000. People could sense something was off. Brand deals started falling through. Companies in talks with her suddenly stopped responding. The few sponsorships she had didn't renew contracts. Her financial situation, already precarious, started cratering. Then follow-up medical appointments started happening. Victor saw a hepatologist at a top Manhattan hospital. He had comprehensive blood work, liver imaging, everything. Results came back after a week of anxious waiting. No hepatitis. The initial markers had been false positives, possibly from recent illness or medication interaction. His liver enzymes were elevated but within normal range given his stress levels and lifestyle. However, comprehensive examination revealed other issues. His cholesterol was dangerously high. He had markers for prediabetes. His blood pressure was borderline hypertensive. He showed signs of chronic stress-related inflammation. The cardiologist reviewing results told him bluntly he was a heart attack waiting to happen. Recommendations were severe. Immediate dietary changes, regular exercise, stress reduction, And most humiliatingly for Victor, the doctor told him he needed to drastically reduce all stressful activities, including excessive sexual activity. For a man who'd built his identity around sexual prowess and juggling multiple relationships, this was crushing. The medical advice got back to his social circle somehow. People started making jokes. His reputation shifted from playboy to pathetic. Ryan's follow-up with a urologist was similarly revealing. Elevated PSA levels weren't actually indicative of cancer. They fell within normal variation range for a man his age with his lifestyle. But comprehensive examination revealed something else entirely. The urologist found clear evidence of long-term anabolic steroid use. Ryan's testosterone levels were wrong, other hormones out of balance. Physical signs that couldn't be explained any other way. The doctor documented all this in Ryan's medical records as required by medical protocols. This documentation eventually reached Ryan's insurance company. When medical records show evidence of illegal drug use, insurance companies take notice. Ryan's personal health insurance premiums skyrocketed. Worse, his gym's liability insurance found out. Having a documented steroid user as owner and primary trainer of a fitness facility was a major risk. His insurance company threatened to drop coverage unless he sold his ownership stake. Combined with financial problems he was already facing, Ryan had no choice. He sold out to his partner for pennies on the dollar and ended up just another employee at the gym he'd built. Kyle's follow-up blood work showed he didn't have serious blood disorders. What he did have was severe vitamin D deficiency, iron deficiency anemia, and dangerously high mercury levels. The mercury poisoning was bad enough it required reporting to public health authorities. Kyle had been eating sushi 3 times daily for years, trying to maintain a healthy image for his insurance career. All that raw fish led to mercury accumulation in his system. His name went into a public health database. When potential clients Googled him, and everyone Googles their insurance agent, articles about mercury poisoning came up linked to his name. It created an impression of someone who made poor decisions about their own health. Why would anyone trust their insurance needs to someone like that? His business collapsed. Within 2 months, he'd sold his client list to a larger firm and taken a salaried position doing corporate insurance sales. His income dropped to about a quarter of what it had been. Marcus's cardiology appointment revealed no immediate heart disease but severe hypertension and clinical anxiety disorder. The cardiologist prescribed blood pressure medication and strongly recommended therapy and possibly anti-anxiety medication. Marcus took the blood pressure medication because he had no choice, but medication made him tired constantly, killed his sex drive, changed his personality from aggressive and driven to subdued and passive. In real estate, personality is everything. Clients want agents who are hungry, who fight for them, who have energy and drive. Marcus on blood pressure medication was none of those things. His sales performance tanked completely. After 3 months barely scraping by, he gave up on real estate entirely. He took a job as a property manager for a residential complex, handling tenant complaints and maintenance requests. Steady work with salary and benefits, but a massive step down from the lifestyle he'd been projecting. All 4 men went from health scares to having actual underlying problems exposed and documented. All 4 saw their businesses and reputations damaged. All 4 ended up in significantly worse positions than they'd started. And the beautiful thing, the absolutely perfect thing, was none of it could be traced to me. The initial health screening had raised legitimate concerns. Follow-up testing was conducted by real doctors at real medical facilities. Discoveries were genuine medical findings. Business consequences were natural results of those findings. There was no smoking gun, no evidence of manipulation, just a chain of events that happened to work out very badly for all 4 of them. Meanwhile, Samantha was caught in the middle of all this chaos. She tried to be supportive to all 4 lovers, but it was impossible. They were all needy and panicked and demanding her time and attention. Victor wanted her at appointments to hold his hand. Ryan needed constant reassurance he didn't have cancer and his life wasn't falling apart. Kyle was spiraling into depression about his failing business. Marcus was having actual panic attacks about his financial situation. She was running between all of them, trying to manage 4 different emotional crises, while also trying to maintain her Instagram presence and deal with her own plummeting follower numbers and disappearing income. Her posts became more desperate, sending prayers and positive energy to friends going through tough times, she wrote, with a photo looking concerned. So important to support the people we care about through health challenges. Comments were increasingly hostile. What friends? Why are you so involved in all these random guys' health issues? Where's your husband? Something seriously sketchy here. Her follower count dropped below 200,000, then below 150, then below 100. Bot accounts were being purged by Instagram systems, and real followers were leaving because they sensed the inauthenticity. Brand deals completely dried up. Companies in negotiations ghosted her. Her Instagram DMs, once full of sponsorship offers, went silent. She was making maybe a few $100s monthly from social media, while spending thousands to maintain the appearance of the lifestyle her content required. Her credit cards were maxed. Collection agencies started calling. Her financial situation was approaching freefall, and she kept calling me, sometimes multiple times daily. I answered maybe one call out of every 3 or 4, and when I did, I kept responses brief and cold. "We need to talk about us," she said one evening in mid-August. "About our marriage." "What about our marriage? We should try counseling. Work on things. I think we can fix this." "Fix what, exactly?" Pause. "Our relationship. We've been distant lately." "Have we?" I said. "I haven't noticed. I've been busy with work." "Ethan, please. I'm trying here. Can we at least meet in person and talk?" "I don't think that's a good idea right now. I'm working through some things." "What things?" "Personal things. I need some space to figure out what I want." "What you want?" she repeated, panic creeping into her voice. "What does that mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like. I'm taking time to think about my life and what I want from it." I hung up before she could respond. 3 days later, I filed for divorce. I'd been consulting with attorneys for weeks. I ultimately chose Jessica Reynolds, one of the top divorce attorneys in New York. Expensive, but I paid her retainer from cryptocurrency accounts Samantha had no idea existed. I laid out the entire situation for Jessica. The affairs, the evidence, the financial situation, everything. "This is going to be straightforward," Jessica told me, reviewing documentation. "The assets you accumulated before marriage are separate property. The cryptocurrency investments can be argued as having come from premarital assets, making them separate property. The apartment is in your name alone. The car is in your name. She has no stable income and significant personal debt. You have documentation of extensive infidelity." "What does that mean in practical terms?" "It means she walks away with nothing," Jessica said simply. "New York is a no-fault divorce state, so infidelity doesn't technically matter for the divorce itself. But it matters for equitable distribution of assets. Given there are essentially no marital assets to distribute, and she brought nothing to the marriage, she leaves with nothing. That's what I want. I want her to get exactly what she contributed." Jessica smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. "Then that's exactly what will happen." Divorce papers were filed on a Tuesday in early September. I arranged for Samantha to be served at the apartment on a Tuesday afternoon, the time that used to be her Marcus slot. But Marcus wasn't coming around anymore, so she was alone. She called me within 5 minutes, voice high and panicked. "Ethan, what is this? Someone just handed me divorce papers." "Yes, I filed for divorce." "But why? We were going to talk. We were going to work things out." "I don't think there's anything to work out, Samantha. This marriage is over and has been for a while. You can't just file for divorce without talking to me first." "Actually, I can. That's exactly how divorce works. You get served papers and then you respond." "But the apartment," she said, and I could hear papers rustling. "This says I have to move out. This says I get nothing." "That can't be right." "It's completely right. Read the papers carefully. The apartment is in my name. Always has been. You were never on the lease. The car is in my name. The money I earned before we got married is separate property. The money I earned during marriage is minimal since I work a regular job. Your influencer income is yours. Your debt is yours. This can't be legal. It's completely legal. You should consult with an attorney if you have questions." "I don't have money for an attorney. I can barely afford food right now." "That sounds like a personal problem. You have 30 days to move out. After that, I'll have the locks changed." "Ethan, please. We can fix this." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made mistakes, but we can work through them." "What mistakes are those? Be specific." She was silent. "Are you talking about sleeping with Victor? Or Ryan? Or Kyle? Or Marcus? Which mistake are you apologizing for? I could hear her breathing, quick and panicked. Or maybe you're apologizing for telling me that if I couldn't handle you sleeping with all of them, I should leave because they were real men? Are you apologizing for that? Ethan, sign the papers. Sign them and move out. Or don't sign them and we'll go to court. Either way, this marriage is over. You ended it. I'm just making it official. I hung up. She tried to hire an attorney, but most divorce lawyers want retainers of several $1,000s. Samantha didn't have several thousand. She didn't have several hundred. Her credit cards were maxed. She couldn't get a loan because her credit was destroyed. She couldn't ask her parents because they'd cut her off years ago. She reached out to Victor for help. She called his office repeatedly. His assistant finally told her Mr. Stone was not available and would appreciate no further contact. She tried calling Ryan. He'd moved back with his parents in New Jersey, working as a personal trainer at someone else's gym, barely making enough to cover basic expenses. He told her he couldn't help. She tried Kyle. He was drowning in his own financial problems and dealing with career change. He told her he wished her well but couldn't afford to help anyone else. She tried Marcus. He listened to her cry on the phone for 5 minutes, then told her he had his own problems and couldn't be her solution. He hung up. All 4 of her lovers, all the real men supposedly better than me, abandoned her the moment she actually needed help. Meanwhile, I'd moved into a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. Nothing ostentatious, but nice. Modern, clean, great light. I'd paid 6 months' rent upfront in cash from cryptocurrency accounts. I'd also started seeing someone new. Her name was Jennifer, and we'd met at a coffee shop. She was a physical therapist, 31, with her own practice. She'd approached me to ask if the seat next to me was taken. We'd started talking, and by the time I'd finished my coffee, she'd given me her number. We'd been on 6 dates. She was smart, funny, grounded. She had her own career and money. She had hobbies and interests unrelated to social media. She asked me questions about my life and actually listened to answers. She saw me as a person, not as a provider or prop. She had no idea about my cryptocurrency wealth, and I liked it that way. I was just a guy who worked in tech installations, drove an old Honda, lived simply, and she liked me anyway. That's how I knew it was real. Samantha found out I was seeing someone through mutual acquaintances. She showed up at my new apartment on a Saturday morning in late September. I barely recognized her. The woman who'd always been immaculately put together now looked like she'd been through hell. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore sweatpants and an old t-shirt, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She'd lost weight, gaunt and hollow. "You're already seeing someone else?" Her voice was accusatory, but underneath I could hear desperation. "That's none of your business. We're still married. On paper for now. That ends as soon as you sign the divorce papers. Ethan, please." She took a step toward me and I held up my hand. "Please, can we just talk?" "Really talk? I made a terrible mistake. I see that now. Those men meant nothing. You're my husband. You're the one I actually care about." "No, you care about what I provided. The apartment, the financial security, the freedom to play influencer without worrying about real bills. You never cared about me. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me, Samantha, what's my favorite color?" She stared at me blankly. "What music do I listen to? What's my favorite food? What do I do in my free time? What are my dreams? What keeps me up at night? What makes me happy?" Her mouth opened and closed. No answers came. We were married for 6 years. 6 years of sharing space, sharing a bed, sharing a life supposedly, and you don't know anything about me. Not because you forgot, because you never cared enough to ask. "Ethan, sign the papers, move out, and build a new life for yourself. That's all you can do now. Just tell me one thing. Are you happy?" "With her?" "Yes, very happy." "Good," she said, and the pain in that word was palpable. "You deserve to be happy. I'm glad you found someone who appreciates you." She turned and walked away, shoulders shaking with sobs. I watched her go, then closed the door. 3 days later, she signed the divorce papers. The divorce was finalized in December, right before Christmas. I walked out of that courthouse legally free, single again at 34, but older, wiser, and significantly wealthier than before. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Samantha had moved into a tiny studio in Yonkers with a roommate. She was working retail at a mall, making minimum wage. Her Instagram was down to about 47,000 followers, and she'd stopped posting regularly. The few times she did post, it was desperate sponsored content that looked exactly like what it was, a sad attempt to make a few dollars. Victor Stone had been forced out of his company through board pressure and bad publicity. He'd taken a buyout reportedly much smaller than expected. He'd moved to Connecticut, living a significantly diminished lifestyle. Ryan Mitchell had left New York entirely. I heard he'd moved to Tampa, working at a gym chain. No more ownership, no more entrepreneurial dreams. Kyle Peterson was working at a corporate insurance firm in group sales. Steady salary, soul-crushing work. He'd gotten married to someone from the office. Marcus Thompson had given up on real estate. He was working as a property manager for a residential complex. He'd gained weight, lost his edge, become just another guy grinding through life. All five of them had fallen from whatever heights they'd imagined. They'd all learned that building your life on illusions eventually catches up with you. Christmas Eve, I was at Jennifer's apartment with her family. Her parents, her sister, her nephews, real people living real lives. They'd welcomed me warmly, treated me like I was already part of the family. We exchanged gifts, cooked dinner together, watched old movies. Jennifer's head was on my shoulder, her hand in mine. It was comfortable and real and right. My phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. I hope you're happy. You destroyed my life. I looked at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. I didn't destroy her life. She did that herself. I just stopped preventing the natural consequences of her choices. In February, I got promoted at work. My boss offered me a management position with a significant raise. I accepted because I liked the work and the challenge. Jennifer and I were getting more serious. We'd had conversations about the future, about what we both wanted from life. We were aligned in ways I'd never been aligned with Samantha. One evening in March, walking through Central Park after dinner, I told Jennifer about my cryptocurrency wealth. She stopped walking and stared at me when I said $8 million. But then she smiled and said my money didn't change anything about who we were. That's when I knew for certain she was the one. In April, Jennifer moved in with me. We'd found a bigger place together. She insisted on splitting rent even though I could have bought the building. I respected her for that. We were building something equal, something based on mutual respect and genuine partnership. It was everything my marriage to Samantha hadn't been. One Saturday afternoon in late May, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ethan. It was Samantha's voice, barely above a whisper. Please, I need to see you. Just once. Just to talk. There's nothing to talk about, Samantha. Please, I'm begging you. I have nowhere else to turn. I just need 5 minutes. Please. Something in her voice, not the entitled anger, not the manipulative tears, but something genuinely broken, made me pause. One time, one conversation, that's it. Coffee shop in Brooklyn. Tomorrow at 2. The next day I arrived first. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. She'd lost significant weight, looked skeletal. Her hair was cut short and uneven. She wore old clothes that hung loose. Her hands shook. Thank you for meeting me, she said quietly as she sat. I nodded, said nothing. I wanted to apologize, really apologize, not because I want something, just because you deserve to hear it. I was cruel to you. I was selfish and entitled, and I treated you like you were nothing. You supported me for years, gave me everything, and I threw it away for what? For attention? For ego? Yes, that's exactly what you did. I destroyed the one good thing in my life because I thought I deserved better. Because I thought you were just ordinary. But you weren't ordinary, were you? No, I wasn't. Who are you, Ethan? Really, does it matter now? It matters to me. I considered lying, decided against it. I spent 8 years in the military, special operations. When I left, I invested in cryptocurrency before most people knew what it was. I'm worth about $8 million now. Her eyes widened. 8 million? Give or take. You always had... Yes. The whole time we were married, I chose to live simply. I chose to work a regular job. I wanted to know that whoever I married loved me for me, not for my money. And I proved that I didn't, she whispered. Yes, you did. We sat in silence. Do you hate me? She asked. No. I did for a while, but hate is exhausting. Now I just feel nothing. You're a stranger who used to sleep in my bed. That's worse than hate. Maybe. I'm not okay, Ethan. I'm not okay at all. I lost everything. My followers, my income, my reputation, my marriage, my home. I'm living in a studio with a roommate who hates me. I work retail for minimum wage. I can barely afford food. And the worst part is I know I deserve it. I know I did this to myself. Yes, you did. And they all left me. Victor, Ryan, Kyle, Marcus. The moment things got hard, they were gone. They were using me the same way I was using them. So they weren't real men after all. She flinched like I'd slapped her. No, they weren't. And you were. You were the only one who was real, and I destroyed you. You didn't destroy me. You freed me. You forced me to stop accepting less than I deserved. Don't be kind to me. I don't deserve kindness. I'm not being kind for you. I'm being kind for me. Because carrying anger around is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. I think about you every day. Every day I wake up and remember what I had and what I threw away. Every day I hate myself a little more. Then stop. Stop hating yourself. Stop dwelling on what you lost. Figure out who you actually are underneath all the performance. Build something real. It's not too late. It is too late. I'm 32 and I have nothing. No career, no money, no prospects, no future. I destroyed everything. You're still breathing. That means it's not too late. But you have to actually change, Samantha, not perform change. Actually change. Can you help me? Can you? No, I can't save you. Only you can save yourself. That's the whole point. Will I ever see you again? I don't think so. Ethan, please, give me another chance. I've changed. I understand now. I see you now. Please. I looked at her. The desperation in her eyes, the trembling in her hands, the complete collapse of everything she'd built her identity on. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction in her suffering, no pleasure in her pain, but also no desire to help, no urge to save her, no spark of love that had once been there. I hope you figure it out. I really do. Not for my sake, but for yours. But that's your journey, not mine. Take care of yourself, Samantha. Wait, just tell me one thing. Did you plan all of this? The health scares, the results, everything? I looked at her for a long moment. Does it matter? Yes, I need to know. I didn't destroy anyone. I just stopped protecting people from the consequences of their own actions. Victor's health problems were real. Ryan's steroid use was real. Kyle's mercury poisoning was real. Marcus's blood pressure was real. Your debt was real. Your fake followers were real. The only thing I did was make sure the truth came to light. So you did plan it. I planned to protect myself. What happened to you and your lovers was just consequences finally arriving. I deserve this. Maybe. Or maybe you just deserve the truth. Either way, it's done now. I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. Over the following months, I heard bits and pieces through mutual friends. Samantha had tried to contact Victor Stone multiple times. She'd shown up at his Connecticut house begging him to help her, to give her money, to take her back. He'd called the police and gotten a restraining order. She tried the same with Ryan. He blocked her number and threatened a legal action. Kyle and Marcus did the same. All four men who'd once been so eager for her attention now wanted nothing to do with her. In October, Jennifer and I got married. Small ceremony in the Hudson Valley. Just family and close friends. No drama, no performances, no carefully curated images. Just love and commitment and two people choosing each other honestly. On our honeymoon in Hawaii, lying on a beach watching sunset, Jennifer asked me if I ever thought about Samantha. Sometimes, not often, not with anger or regret. Just occasionally wondering if she's doing okay. That's kind of you. It's not kindness. It's just acknowledgement that she was a human being who made bad choices and is paying for them. I don't wish her more suffering, but I'm not responsible for fixing her either. Do you ever feel guilty? No, I feel sorry for her sometimes. But guilty? No. She made every choice that led to where she is. I just stopped protecting her from consequences. Jennifer kissed me. I love you, Ethan Walker. You're a good man with good boundaries. We flew back to New York, back to our apartment, back to our real life together. In late November, about a month after the wedding, my phone rang one evening, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ethan? It was Samantha's voice, but different, flatter, more desperate. Samantha, I kept my voice neutral. I need help. I need money. I can't make rent this month and my roommate is kicking me out. I'll be on the street. Please. I'm begging you. Just a loan. I'll pay you back. Please. I'm sorry, Samantha. I can't help you. Please. Her voice rose to almost a shriek. Please, Ethan. I have nowhere to go. I'll do anything. I'll sign anything. Just please help me. You need to figure this out yourself. There are shelters. There are services. There are resources. But I'm not your solution. I can't be your solution. How can you be so cold? After everything we had, after 6 years of marriage, after everything we had, I repeated. Samantha, we didn't have anything. You had an ATM that you occasionally slept next to. That's all our marriage ever was to you. That's not true. It is true, and you know it. I'm hanging up now. Don't call me again. Ethan, wait. I hung up, blocked her number. That was the last time I ever spoke to Samantha. Through the grapevine over the following weeks, I heard fragments of her continued decline. She'd been evicted from her studio apartment. She was sleeping on couches, moving between acquaintances who tolerated her for a few days before asking her to leave. Her Instagram account went dark entirely. Someone said she deleted it. Someone else said it had been hacked and she couldn't afford to get it back. Then in mid-December, almost exactly a year after our divorce was finalized, I got a call from Angela. Ethan, I thought you should know. Samantha came into the emergency room tonight. What happened? She collapsed at a bus stop. Malnutrition, dehydration, exposure. They're treating her now, but Ethan, she's in bad shape. Really bad. They're talking about psychiatric evaluation because she was incoherent, possibly delusional. Is she going to be okay? Physically, probably. They'll stabilize her. But mentally, emotionally, I don't know. She looks like she's given up entirely. Thanks for letting me know. Do you want me to tell her you called or anything? No. There's nothing I can do for her. She made her choices. This is where they led. I understand. I just thought you should know. We hung up. I sat with the information for a while. Samantha was in the hospital, possibly heading for involuntary psychiatric commitment. The woman who'd once had hundreds of thousands of followers, who juggled 4 affairs like they were accessories, who told me I wasn't man enough for her, was now homeless and possibly delusional. I told Jennifer about it that evening. How do you feel? She asked. Sad for her, but not responsible. She destroyed herself. I just stopped being collateral damage in her self-destruction. Jennifer nodded. You gave her chances. You gave her resources. You didn't owe her more than that. I know. Then let it go. She's on her own path now. You're on yours. She was right. I had let it go. Christmas came and went. Jennifer and I celebrated with her family, exchanged gifts, made plans for the new year. We talked about maybe buying a house, together starting to think about kids in a few years, building a real future. In early January, I got one final piece of information about Samantha, this time from a mutual friend who ran into someone who'd known her. She's gone, the friend told me over the phone. Left New York entirely. Someone said she went to stay with a distant relative in Oklahoma or Kansas or somewhere. Just disappeared. Her phone number doesn't work anymore. Her social media is all deleted. It's like she never existed. Okay, I said. Thanks for letting me know. You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. That chapter's closed. And it was. I never heard from or about Samantha again. She simply vanished from my life and from New York, leaving behind nothing but a trail of burned bridges and broken promises. I sometimes wondered, in idle moments, if she ever figured out who she really was underneath all the performance, if she ever built something real, if she ever found any kind of peace. But those thoughts were fleeting and rare. Most of the time, I didn't think about her at all. My life moved forward. Jennifer and I bought a house in Westchester. I eventually told her the full story of what happened with Samantha, and she listened without judgment. She understood that sometimes protecting yourself means letting others face their own consequences. We built something good together, something honest and real and mutual. We had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I taught them about making good choices, about valuing real things over appearances, about treating people with respect. I never told them about my first marriage. That was a chapter that belonged to a different version of me, a version that had died the moment Samantha told me to leave if I couldn't handle her affairs. From those ashes, a stronger version had emerged, not vengeful or cruel, but protective and clear-eyed. Someone who knew his worth and wouldn't accept less than he deserved. That was the real victory, not destroying Samantha, but building a life so good, so real, so full that the past became irrelevant. Years later, maybe 5 or 6 years after the divorce, I was at a coffee shop in Manhattan when I saw a woman who looked vaguely familiar. She was thin, plain, working behind the counter, taking orders. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, wearing a standard coffee shop uniform. For a moment, I thought it might be Samantha. But then the woman turned fully and I saw it wasn't her. Just someone who resembled her slightly. I wondered again, briefly, where Samantha was and how she was doing. If she was even still alive. If she'd ever managed to rebuild anything from the ruins of what she'd destroyed. But it was an idle thought, nothing more. Like wondering about a character from a book you'd read years ago and mostly forgotten. I ordered my coffee, Jennifer's favorite pastry, and headed home to my wife and kids in the real life I'd built. That's where Samantha belonged now, in the distant past. A cautionary tale, maybe, but no, longer a living presence in my world. She'd told me to leave if I couldn't handle what she'd done. So I had, and I'd built something infinitely better without her. As for Samantha herself, last I heard from anyone who might know, she was living somewhere in the Midwest under her maiden name, working some kind of job far removed from social media or influencer culture, keeping her head down and staying invisible. Some people say she got what she deserved. Others say the punishment exceeded the crime. I say she got exactly what her choices earned her. And me? I got exactly what I deserved too. A real relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. A family that values substance over image. A life that matters not because it looks good on Instagram, but because it feels good every single day. That was the real ending to the story, not with dramatic revenge or poetic justice, but with simple truth. Some people build their lives on solid ground, and some build on quicksand. Samantha built on quicksand, and eventually, inevitably, it swallowed her whole. I built on solid ground, and that's why I'm still standing, strong and stable, and genuinely happy, while she's just a fading memory of a mistake I once made and learned from. The last thing I ever heard about Samantha was years after everything happened. A mutual friend ran into someone who claimed to have seen her working at a truck stop diner somewhere in Missouri, living in a trailer park, keeping to herself, looking decades older than her actual age. I don't know if that story was true or just rumor. I never tried to verify it. It didn't matter. Because whether Samantha was thriving or barely surviving, whether she'd found redemption or was still trapped in consequences of her choices, it was no longer my concern. She'd walked out of my story the moment she betrayed me. Everything that came after was just epilogue. My real story was with Jennifer and our kids and the life we were building together. That was the story that mattered. That was the story I wanted to tell. And in that story, Samantha didn't even rate a footnote. She'd wanted to be the star of her own show, the center of attention, the influencer everyone followed. Instead, she ended up as nothing more than a brief, unpleasant chapter in someone else's journey to happiness. That was her tragedy. Not that I'd destroyed her, but that she'd destroyed herself and made herself so thoroughly irrelevant to everyone who'd once cared about her. As for me, I woke up every morning next to someone who actually loved me. I went to work at a job I enjoyed. I came home to kids who were happy to see me. I lived a life that was real and good and mine. That was my victory. That was my revenge. That was my happy ending. And Samantha, wherever she was, whatever she was doing, she was simply no longer part of the equation. She told me to leave if I couldn't handle her affairs. So I did. And I never looked back.